This one's for you, Morph.
Before we get into the video, I just want to quickly plug my latest short film, The Shining Optimism of E.F. Manar. Keep the spark alive. As dreamer and optimist E.F. Manar must find a way to keep his hopes and passions alive in a cynical world. Inspired by Wonka and The Greatest Showman, a lot of time, effort, love, and passion was put into this project, so I would really appreciate it if you guys could give it a watch. The film is linked down below in the description, and it's also on the homepage of my YouTube channel. I hope you guys watch it and really enjoy it. Anyways, back to the video.
So when it comes to my review for X-Men 97, I'm a little late on it, and I know I am, and that's purely because I wasn't intending on reviewing this show, because growing up, I never watched the 90s X-Men cartoon. I was mainly a 90s Spider-Man kid. I mean, I grew up in the 2000s, but I saw reruns as a kid. But that love I have for the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, you know, with the whole Spider-Blood, radioactive Spider-Blood. I never had that for the 90s X-Men cartoon. Like, yeah, I love the theme song. It's amazing. I mean, what nerd doesn't love the X-Men 90s theme? Like, it's so good. But at the end of the day, I didn't grow up watching the cartoon, and so I didn't really have much interest in watching X-Men 97. I saw the internet praising the cartoon and stuff, but I still wasn't interested in checking it out. It wasn't until my friends were just like, Hamza, you have to watch this. That's when I finally sat down and watched the cartoon. Because believe you me, I tried watching the original X-Men 90s cartoon before watching X-Men 97, and yeah, it's just not a show for me. I don't like it. Like, I tried watching the pilot, and then I tried watching the Days of Future Past episodes. It's not for me. I don't like that cartoon. It's so, like, slowly paced compared to the Spider-Man cartoon. I mean, granted, the 90s Spider-Man cartoon is, like, way too hyperactive and stuff, and there's explosions, like, every 10 seconds. But even still, I could watch the 90s Spider-Man cartoon in comparison to the X-Men cartoon. There was something about it where I was just like, it's not my cup of tea. Like I've said before on the channel, growing up, I was not an X-Men kid. I was a Wolverine guy. I loved Wolverine, but that was because I watched like Wolverine and the X-Men and stuff. And of course, my beloved Hugh Jackman's portrayal of the character in the Fox X-Men films. I love Wolverine. I'm not an X-Men guy. I mean, I like the X-Men films, but again, I would not say that growing up, I was an X-Men comic guy. I wasn't. They'd show up in a Spider-Man story here and there, and I'm like, yeah, I know the X-Men. Sure, yeah, Wolverine, Gambit, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Professor X, Magneto. Yeah, I know them. But anyways, after much convincing and begging, I finally sat down and watched X-Men 97. And overall, I really enjoyed it. I think it was a really good season of cartoon television. I mean, the animation is incredible. It's so fluid. It's really great. And the whole time, I kept thinking to myself, damn, if only Amazon put in this much effort into the animation for Invincible, I think I'd probably still be watching that show. There's a reason why I didn't finish and review Invincible Season 2, and that's purely because 1, the animation is just not very good, and 2, the release schedule for Season 2 was really off-putting. It was like they released half the season, and granted it had been, what, like 2 years since Season 1 had come out? And then they waited like another 2 months to release the second half, and by the time they released the second half, I didn't care anymore. But with X-Men 97, it was a really great show. I really enjoyed it. I'm just going to start off with my negatives just because there weren't many. I did have some complaints with the show, but overall, I really enjoyed it. My first criticism, and it's more of like a nitpick, though I guess you can call it a complaint, it's mainly the way they handled Wolverine. Like, Wolverine is such a side character in the show. Like, I get it. The show probably was just like, look, listen, Wolverine has had way too much spotlight. The movie's focused on him way too much. Let's, like, make this X-Men cartoon about the rest of the X-Men. I get that. But Wolverine in the show has, like, nothing to do. There's a difference between putting Wolverine to the side and giving him absolutely nothing. And the show just gives him absolutely nothing, and I didn't like it. Also, the voice actor for Wolverine, I am not in love with. Like, I know it's the original guy from the 90s cartoon, but even still, I've never really been a fan of that voice. Like, if it's not Hugh Jackman, then Steve Bloom is my voice for Wolverine. Again, I think he voiced Wolverine and the X-Men, so, like, yeah, that's why I prefer his voice. But there's something about the way this guy talks, and he's like, this one's for you, Morph, and come on, Jean, we gotta go take down Magneto, and I love you, Jean. I don't know, there's something about his voice that was really grating and irritating, and I was like, that's not Logan. That's not my Logan. Where's Hugh Jackman? Where's Steve Bloom? And sticking on the subject of voices, the voice of Professor X is just so... What a nerd, man. He sounds like such a nerd the whole time. Magnus, no, what are you doing? I'm dead. I'm off on the Shi'ar Empire planet getting married. To me, my X-Men. Okay, the one exception to his voice sounding like a nerd is when he says to me, my X-Men, when he finally arrives back on Earth. That was a good moment, but other than that, the way he talks, it's like, oh no, Magnus, what are you doing? No, Magnus. It's funny too, because I like the actor. It's Ross Marquand, who plays Aaron from The Walking Dead. It's like, I like the actor, but that voice is just a bit silly and goofy, and Professor X just sounds like so much of a nerd. Especially when you compare him to someone like James McAvoy or Sir Patrick Stewart. I mean, Logan, if we can show them a better path. Logan, if we can show them a better path. No, I feel like I'm going more Ian McKellen then. Your cities will not be safe. Your streets will not be safe. You will not be safe. But yeah, Professor X's voice actor, I wasn't a massive fan of. In terms of story criticisms, one of the things that I do wish the show kind of dealt with a little bit more was the idea of Magneto being the leader of the X-Men, him leading the X-Men, and most importantly, him trying to live up to Charles' vision. Like, I know Magneto was going to turn bad and do his usual thing that he always does. Like, it's in his nature, I know that, but I just wish that they really explored the idea of him leading the X-Men a little more. And getting to what I think is probably the worst episode of the entire season, it's the Jubilee birthday episode where her and... I always forget this guy's name. The episode where Roberto and Jubilee get sucked into that video game and then there's that weird like gremlin looking creature that's just like ah, ha, ha. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that episode. Now, before we move on to the positives, I do want to say that my biggest complaint with the entire show is the way it handles exposition. Like, it's too on the nose. Like, I know it's for kids, but the way the exposition is written, it feels very clunky that even like a 2-year-old could understand what's happening. The exposition is really heavy-handed and it really feels like it's dumbing down the dialogue for the audience, and it's kind of like, you don't have to. Like, I know what's happening. But getting the negatives out of the way, overall I thought the show was really enjoyable. It was really nice seeing the X-Men, you know, get to shine. Like, watching this show, you see why Cyclops is the leader of the X-Men. You see the conflict between him and Jean Grey, Madeline Pryor, and all the weird comic booky confusion stuff that happens with it. We see the birth of Nathan Summers, aka Cable, which was really cool. And one of the things I do want to point out, and I think is really cool, is how much the voice actor for Cable sounds like Josh Brolin. Like, if you asked me without searching up who the actual voice actor was, I would have thought it was Josh Brolin. I thought that was a really cool detail. There's also just a lot of really great moments throughout the season, like Magneto taking out Wolverine's adamantium skeleton, them kind of adapting Ultimatum in a way. But for me, the highlight was Gambit's death. Like, it was so good, it was so heartbreaking. Like, Gambit is great, but like the way he goes out in the show is so cool. He defends Rogue, the woman that he loves, and then commits the ultimate sacrifice, but he's so like Gambit about it. Gambit, see your bet and raise it. It was such a like heartbreaking moment, like when Rogue's all like, sugar. Oh, my heart, it was so good.
The name's Gambit, mon ami. Remember it.
But the thing with Gambit's death is that he's most likely coming back for the second season, right? Like, they literally tease Apocalypse holding a playing card going like, oh yeah, Gambit's gonna be one of his 4 horsemen. And the thing is, though, is that I know that they started, like, pre-production and even production of X-Men 97 Season 2 before Deadpool and Wolverine and this show came out. But, seeing as how popular Channing Tatum's Gambit was in Deadpool and Wolverine, I have a feeling and, like, a really sneaking suspicion, and I kind of want them to do this. I kind of want Gambit to come back and be all like, "Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself." Like, he kind of has to. The name's Remy Labo. Diablo Blanc. They might not be ready, but I'm sure shot of my daddy's dick ready. Yeah, he wrapped up them battery nuts all up in my mama and I shot down. He was like, oh, what's up, dog? I don't know how I'd actually feel about that, though, because I feel like that would be really, like, cringy, but then it could also be done really well, like how they handled the whole, like, black leather thing. There's the scene between Cable and Cyclops where Cyclops gives Cable a blue and yellow X-Men uniform, and Cable's like, you're gonna make me wear this? And then Cyclops is like, what do you expect, black leather? Obviously it being a flip on the X-Men movie.
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
Oh, am I going to war or a circus?
What'd you expect? Black leather?
It kind of just depends on how they do it. Like, if they bring Gambit back and he's, like, confronting the X-Men, he's just like, you know how long I've been waiting for this? Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself here. Then it could work. I don't know, it just depends on how they do it. And obviously, I've mentioned that I'm a massive fan of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. So when I saw Spider-Man show up in the third to last episode, and then Daredevil shows up in the second to last episode, and then Peter Parker and Mary Jane from the 90s Spider-Man cartoon show up in the finale. I was like, no way, it's Peter and MJ. And as a fan of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, I have so many questions like, oh my god, so Peter did get Mary Jane out of the time portal, or does this take place before Mary Jane goes into the time portal? How did Peter save MJ from the time portal if that's not the case? Like, I want to know. Like, I saw them show up and I was just like, damn it, I want like a Spider-Man 98 revival, not this, Spider-Man for freshman year. I think that's what it's called, that like Disney Spider-Man cartoon that they're working on. Don't want it. I want, Spider-Man 98. And if we can't have that, then I want Spider-Man to cameo in Season 2 in the same level that Iron Man and Captain America appeared in Season 1 of 97, just because I need it, man. I want to hear Christopher Daniel Barnes play Peter Parker one more time. Like, no, you can't have 90s Spider-Man show up and not do anything. Like, no, that's my childhood Spider-Man. But in terms for what I want / expect for Season 2, again, I'm not an X-Men, fanatic, so I don't know, the core stories. I just really want Wolverine to show up and shine a little bit more than he did in Season 1. I'd also love it if they could make Deadpool work, because I don't think Deadpool was in the original animated series, and I think it'd be really cool to have Deadpool show up and, do an interpretation of Deadpool in this universe. I want Gambit to come back, not just as one of Apocalypse's 4 horsemen, but I want him to come back to the team and him be all long I've been waiting to come back here. Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself here. Again, I'd love a full-on extended Spider-Man cameo, but only if it makes sense for it to work within the narrative of the show. Again, I'm not a massive X-Men fan, so I don't know what they're planning on doing and such. I just want more of the same quality from Season 1 in Season 2. Overall, when it comes to X-Men 97, I really enjoyed it. The animation was great, the storytelling was great, the characterization of most of the characters was really great, the heartbreaking death of Gambit, mwah. There are certain story ideas and certain characters that I wish they expanded upon a little bit more, namely Magneto being the leader of the X-Men. I wish they played that out for just a bit longer before he turned evil again. As a Marvel cartoon, it was really good, and overall it's kind of nice to just have a good superhero cartoon on the air again. Obviously it's streaming, but still it's nice to just have a good superhero cartoon that's not connected to the MCU or relies upon the continuity of the MCU. It's nice to just have a refreshing cartoon that's based on the comic books. But yeah, those are my thoughts on X-Men 97. I really enjoyed it. But what did you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on social media, all the good stuff. Until we meet again, see you guys next time. Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself here.